our last presenter in this segment is Mr. Rajendra Khadilkar, who's the head of emerging technologies at LafargeHolcim. He's a part of the LH Global IT, focusing on customer-centric innovations. He's responsible for the emerging technologies and enterprise architecture in India before taking up his new role in the group. Well, he has over 25 years of experience in IT consulting and system integration. He's worked with the end-user organizations like USB Limited, SR Group, and IT companies like Deloitte Consulting and Putney System. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Rajendra Khadilkar.
Hello, can you hear me? Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad that I'm having this session after the tea. So, my earlier speakers did a great job of keeping you awake post lunch. All right. Here's a quick agenda. I'll start off talking a little bit about ourselves, who we are, what we do. I'll talk a little bit about end-to-end logistics, our journey, and I'll not talk a lot about it because I think a lot of our earlier speakers have spoken about it. A lot of stuff what others are doing, we are also doing. So I think it will be a lot of repetition if I continue to talk about the solutions and the technologies. Nonetheless, I'll a little bit talk about it. But what's more important, I'm going to talk about after you have all of these solutions, what do you do with it? I mean, you can have a lot of technologies and solutions around you, but then once you have it, how do you effectively use it? And that's where the whole architecture and how do you lay down the solutions and how do you make sure that you generate the value out of it. That is the topic I'm going to focus a little bit more on that. I'll also talk about the challenges and the success factors when you go on a journey like this. And finally, a little bit, maybe a few minutes on what next. All right, how about us? We are LafargeHolcim. We are the largest manufacturer of cement and aggregates in the world. We came into existence in 2015 by a merger of two of the largest cement and aggregate manufacturers in the world, Holcim and Lafarge. Collectively, between these two companies, we have over 180 years of experience. We have a presence in 90 countries, an installed annual capacity of over 370 metric tons of cements and aggregates. In India, we may not be known as LafargeHolcim, but actually we are represented by brands ACC and Ambuja, two of the most well-established and the most respected brands in the cement industry. In India, we have an installed capacity of over 70 metric ton spread across about 30 odd plants, cement plants, and about 70 odd ready mix plants. We work with a fleet size of over 40,000 trucks because that's for us logistics becomes extremely important, and a lot of these trucks are sourced from market. We have only about between 20% of our trucks are what we call dedicated trucks, but really a lot of the logistics trucks we depend upon the market to provide us that. So that's the kind of size of our operations in the logistics. We cover over 13,000 unique routes across India, where we deliver cement through our channel partners and to our customers. So that's a quick rundown of who we are and what we do. Let's now talk about, and then we also dispatches through road, rail, and sea, pretty much. And sea is very surprising, but that's true for us because we have a couple of our plants, who are on the shoreline, and we actually transport the clinker and sometimes this bulk cement through the sea route. We own our ships or the charter ships, and we use them to do the bulk transport. All right, so that's how we look at the end-to-end logistics. How do we see? I mean, we have so the way we look at it is that we do the demand planning, and it's not any different from a lot of other manufacturing companies who are heavily dependent on logistics to look at it. But from a logistics perspective, it's really the demand planning. How do you look at the internal demand? How do you look at the market predictions? And then you look at your production capacities and do your demand planning for the for your next quarter, for your next 2 quarters. The next thing that comes up is the scheduling part of it. That is where the actual execution happens, which is where you actually look at the daily volumes, how much you need to transport, you look at the trucks availability. Then the next thing that comes big is the tracking. So once you put logistics into execution, how do you look at, how do you monitor it? How do you make sure that by the time the truck leaves your plant and by the time it reaches your customer, how do you make sure that you have the complete visibility, not just for you, but also for all the stakeholders that are involved in the logistics operations. Next comes, and which is very important for us, is safety, because when we do all of this, we need to make sure that we are doing it in a safe manner. We are not, harming people's lives when we do that. And we know in India how is the road transport, and how it can, get really difficult for, for us to make safety. So for us, safety becomes extremely important. And then, the next thing is the analytics part of it. What I mean by analytics is not really, the BW reports which come out with an analytics and trends after 6 months, but we are really talking about here the real-time analytics which tells you what happened last day, what happens, last week, and what happens in last month, not about what happened last year. I mean, we have another set of systems that tell us that, but what's more important for us, for faster decision, is to know what happened yesterday and how we can fix and correct our course of action to make sure that we respond to that analytics. And then obviously finally the feedback part of it, you just put that feedback back into the systems to make sure that our optimizers, our network planners, they become more efficient and more real time. The next thing you see, the technologies, the outer circle. A lot of it, we use optimizers, like we do the network planning optimizers for us, like everyone else in the room, and I heard about it multiple times through my previous speakers, that we use GPS for the tracking. We use portal interface for our customers so that they come to know about where their deliveries are, and they can exchange information with us. We have started doing IoT, not in a big manner, but yes, we have started looking at IoT by putting in the manless weighbridge, making sure that we do the automated weights and the dispatches. Big data, we have started again in a small way because we have collected tons of GPS data. Now again, the whole question is, you can keep collecting data, what do you do with it? So we use a lot of GPS data for us to figure out the risk points on the roads, which are the risk points, and how do you then feed that back into our drivers, telling them that here are the risk points, here is where you have been making mistakes, here is where you need to be more cautious. So the analytics plays a big role into that, the big data. Mobile we use a lot more on the customer centric applications, but we have now started using mobile for a lot of our other stuff, and I'll talk a little bit more about it when we talk about the systems. But we also use, for example, mobile-based applications in our warehouses, because our warehouses, a lot of them are at locations where you cannot provide connectivity, I mean, you can't use SAP there as an ERP there. So you will need a mobile or light extension of your systems for them to be able to operate. And then, as I said earlier, the predictive analytics, what I spoke about. The outer chain, the last, the outer circle talks about, all our stakeholders. Who are we talking about when we talk logistics? So we are talking about all our internal stakeholders, which are our S&D planners, the dispatch supervisors, the plant, people, warehouse operators. And then we have transporters, which obviously form a very, very big portion of our stakeholder community. We have channel partners like dealers, distributors, retailers, who we need to interact and deliver cement and aggregates on a daily basis. We have sales managers who then need to know how we are doing on our delivery fulfillment. And then we have drivers. I mean, though they are not, they come to us through the transporters, through the transporting community. But I think for us, they are very important because we deal with them on a day-to-day basis. So that forms overall, the stakeholder and the ecosystem that we are talking about in our logistics journey. Now, here are the tools which we are using. So we use a network optimizer. It's a more on constraint base, which tells us, how do we do the network planning? Where do we need our warehouses? Where do we need our transportation routes, how do we respond to the demand? So that's the network optimizer for us. We use automated weighbridge. I just spoke about it. We just did a pilot with in couple of our plants where we are completely doing a manless weighbridge, so which gives us a lot of confidence in accurate weights and making sure that there are no malpractices. But that's not the intent, that malpractices. The intent is more on the efficiency and the accuracy. GPS based, we have been very, very early adopters. I think 2012, my colleagues are here. I think 2012 we started using GPS based systems for tracking the trucks outside when they leave our plant and when they reach our customers. We have been using GPS by fitting in dedicated GPS devices on the trucks. The GPS devices we actually use for two purposes. We use them for tracking, but more importantly, they also give us a lot of safety parameters. How our drivers are doing in terms of their road manners, are there harsh brakings, are there harsh maneuverings that they are doing. So a lot of safety parameters actually coming out of GPS. We are also experimenting with the GPS tracking by actually using mobile devices. Could we actually use the mobile devices to do, and we, of course, all of us use mobile devices for tracking, but how do you get the safety parameters coming out of mobile? I wouldn't say that we are 100% successful, but I think there is a potential to actually use mobile devices to actually do the tracking as well as actually track the safety parameters also. It will take us some time to get there because the algorithms have to be fixed. You need a lot of fine tuning to be done, but I think there is a potential to do that. We heard some in the morning saying that we use mobile devices for tracking. So I think we are going a step further and trying to see if we could actually get the safety parameters coming out of the mobile based tracking. This is a project very dear to our heart. This is how we actually started our whole journey of logistics automation. Novire were our partners. They were the first ones who stood by us when we started the journey with just one plant. Did a lot of fine tuning on the system. We learned a lot from that prototype along with Novire. My colleagues from here, ACC colleagues sitting here, I think they have been instrumental in starting this project. So RFID based in-plant tracking we started again as early as in 2012. By 2015, now we have almost completed all of our plants which are completely based on the RFID based tracking. So since the time the truck comes to our yard, and by the time it takes the load and leaves our plant, the entire sequence of events we are tracking through the RFID, and we have seen significant benefits coming from it in terms of the TAT. So we have seen the TATs going down by like 60%, 40%. Obviously, they vary plant by plant. But some of our smaller plants, we are seeing that in 45 minutes, the truck is out between the time it comes into the plant and by the time it leaves the plant. With Novire, we have now started a new initiative. This is basically a driver and a vehicle passport management system. We just did couple of pilot prototype plants in couple of plants. But this is important for us because when the drivers and vehicles are taking their trips, we want to ensure that they are trip worthy in terms of the vehicle readiness, in terms of the driver readiness. So we are actually doing a lot of parameters checks when the drivers enter the yard or the plant. So we have the NFC based cards given to the drivers. We have the mobile based application that then our security people actually use to interact with the drivers and get all those parameters filled in. The parameters could be like the license validity, the breath analyzer, test results, any earlier accidents done, the driving history. So really we have a vehicle and a driver passport. You just look at a passport, you actually get to know the entire history of that driver and the vehicle. And we are building that database obviously as we go along. One thing I must mention here, we're trying here, which is now going to the next level of automation, is again with Novire, we are trying to see if we could actually integrate the breath analyzer output into the mobile application. So we don't leave it to the human to actually see whether the driver fails or succeeded the breath analysis test. If you could do that, we would have taken one more step in terms of the IoT, in terms of making sure that we are able to connect the devices. The other important tool which we have recently developed is all the data which we are collecting into the GPS system. We actually are analyzing the data and using it to actually figure out the pressure points on the route. So we could actually tell our drivers ahead of the trip as well as during the trip as to what would be the risk points they need to be aware of.